share your acknowledgement of country, if you're doing a podcast, you say it out loud.
With words.
With words.
So people can hear it with their ears.
But first, our behind-the-scenes conversation.
I don't know many words for that. All this.
Well, that's
I'm
why.
Very uneducated.
But that's why it's good that we're doing this and we feel the awkwardness. And then we do, and then we do better because we're like, oh.
Yeah, I know.
Bad. I've been, yeah. Honestly, that's the only way we learn is to go like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about, that's why I love the acknowledgements of country and things, because every white person will go through the experience of going, wait, do I need to say one?
Yeah.
And then going,
so...
I don't know enough.
And then, because we hear it so much now, it's also scripted and it feels like it's just said to appease people.
Yes,
but
and so you want to do one, that you don't want it to be an appeasement, you want it to actually be real. And then when you go to do it, you're like, I don't know enough. I need to know more.
Yeah.
And I think sitting in that, I really do actually, this is one of those times where I do value sitting in the muck and mire of feeling guilty and a bit shameful, because as white people, unfortunately, we learn from this shame, guilt feeling, and it prompts us to do more.
Yeah, and you know what, the extent of the cultural erasure, human erasure, of course, the white people don't want to share that stuff with their kind, because it's revolting.
It's horrible. They're horrible humans.
So, this is why we've been sheltered by this information, but it's, there's all sorts of ways to learn about it as well now, luckily, thankfully. Yeah.
So we live in Australia. Australia is a place that was colonised and massacred. The Indigenous people massacred wildly, horrendously. And we were not really taught that properly in school. And it's very important to acknowledge that this land was never ceded, and it is a sovereign nation to the Indigenous people of Australia. And in order to acknowledge that and share a little bit about where we actually are, I thought we could chat about that in terms of where we each record the podcast, because we do it via Zoom from our own homes. Yes.
Yeah.
So Sophie, where do you live?
So I live in a beautiful part of the world, which it just feels really nice and really special and really safe. I live on the Mornington Peninsula, which is the land of the Boonwurrung peoples. And the landscape here, I adore it. I go out often to do some en plein air painting and sketching in my sketchbook. I just love where I live so dang much. And
That's
I'm
beautiful.
So grateful that I get to be here and feel safe and cozy and comfy, and eternally grateful and thankful for the Boonwurrung people and ancestors keeping me safe here.
And to continuously learn. And I think that's the other important thing as white folk, that we want to acknowledge, we want to make our acknowledgement, but we also want to name that we are also continuously learning.
Always.
And
we literally, I feel like I learnt nothing about Indigenous cultures, stories, languages, everything, even how the colonizers, we didn't really learn that much about the colonizers and all the horrific genocides, murders.
We just didn't.
Just the erasure of so much culture and language and story and people and family, and it's just
it's frustrating.
I feel like only in the past 5 years I've started learning about this stuff, which just is it's just so wrong. We should have learned about
ridiculous.
This in school, but here we are trying our best and
we're going to keep trying,
twaddling along, learning things and being open to it.
Yeah.
What about you, Lucy? Whereabouts are you based? Where do you
I live in Carnegie, which is in the council area of Glen Ira. And that is the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people. They're the traditional custodians of these lands. And it's really interesting. I think it's much more built up. When I think of your home, Sophie, it is much more connected to nature, because it's kind of coastal, and it's easier to connect to nature, I think. So here is a little bit more built up, but not too much. And but at the same, like, it is home. It is absolutely the place that is comfy. It's where my family lives now, like in this area around here, and more down to the ocean. But yeah, it is really important again to acknowledge, I think as well, the Woiwurrung and Wurundjeri area is quite large, and it's cool to know the extent of where it goes out to. I'm right actually on the edge of like Wurundjeri and then into the Boonwurrung land, which is your area.
Which is where I start, yeah, sort of.
But it's all the way out to the Macedon Ranges, the Yarra Ranges, and then it goes out to the west, but not to Geelong. So it's like Melton is the edge of the Woiwurrung Wurundjeri land, and then the Yarra Ranges and the Macedon Ranges. So it's a really big area as well. And so when I think of a lot of what I know of, like Victoria, like particularly close to Melbourne, most of the time I'm thinking about Wurundjeri land. And then, yeah, down to the coast is sort of the Boonwurrung, and that wraps all the way around.
So the Boonwurrung territory spans from like Werribee, the Werribee River, to all the way to Wilson's Prom and Phillip Island, the whole Western Port Bay. It's massive, beautiful and massive.
Beautiful.
A lot of culturally significant spots all around. And one of my favourites is Cape Schanck, which I love to visit often. Let me find what if it has an Indigenous name, which it should.
Yeah. Considering all our landmarks are named
Cape Schanck
on colonisers and murderers predominantly, which is great. Tunahan.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So the Indigenous name for the area of Cape Schanck is Tunahan, and it's so beautiful. You can, like, as soon as you step down and look at the site, you know that it's a special spot, and it was inhabited for like 40,000 years, which is so hard to fathom in our little pipsqueak brains. It was like a beautiful spot for gathering, meals, a lot of just like a lot of life that happened, a lot of fishing, a lot of, yeah.
Well, yeah, we don't know because we're not taught that.
All that history was wiped.
Yes, it was all wiped out. Not all of it, but a lot of it was, and then systematically oppressed. So our knowledge is limited. However, we're always learning, and we always want to keep learning. And yeah, this is our auditory acknowledgement to country. If you live in Australia and don't know where or what your Indigenous area is called, we encourage you to look it up. It is a really important grounding, I think, just to know, just to be able to name the land you stand on in the traditional owners, because all the names we have for everything is just taken from England, realistically.
Yeah, very British.
And I think
sounding.
It is a nice way to ground, and it is an important way to ground because we owe it to our Indigenous elders and the holders of the heritage of this nation to acknowledge them in every step we take, I think. And knowing your Indigenous land name and culture of that area is a really nice way and an accessible way, because that's widely shared online. You can find that out quite easily. That's an accessible way to start your journey of exploring. So thank you for joining us on our little Acknowledgement to Country episode. If you have any questions, let us know. However, we are white folk, and we also appreciate being schooled regularly.
And we can leave some links below for some interesting information, some more
knowledgey learnings. If you can, pay the rent. I encourage everyone to pay the rent. We'll leave the link to pay the rent below, and that's a nice way to continuously honour the country you live in. But yeah, explore it. And for those of you who live overseas.
We should also extend our respects to the First Nations peoples of all the lands that this podcast reaches as well.
True. Absolutely. Because colonizers up everywhere.
Greedy little blighters.
Keep learning.
We'll continue the
Absolutely.
conversation and love ya.
Thank you. And this is the postscript for white folks. I wanted to clarify something I said around shame and our response from shame is a kind of closing off, a shutting down. That's like a natural response to shame. And often when we talk about First Nations people and the massive amount of systemic trauma they've experienced, we feel shame and we close off, and that leads to no further growth. And so I encourage you, when you notice that, to not close off, because it is a continual shutting down that is kind of built into the system on purpose so that we don't further educate ourselves to understand the cultures around us that we have disappeared through our white history. So when you notice the shame or the guilt come up, when you don't know the land you stand on, or if someone schools you or you feel called out, acknowledge it and then choose not to turn away. Choose to continue learning and growing, because that shutting down is just not helpful and it leads to further division, sadness and separation. So yeah, postscript done. Love you.